Welcome to the Seahawkers podcast. I am Clinton Bonner. I am fired up because this is part 2 of our pre-draft roster evaluation in 2025. We know everybody loves and wants that great draft content. We got a lot more coming up as we hit this basically draft month. We're now in April. We're in draft month, and we got a lot of that content coming up. We think it's really cool to pause, hit the pause button, look at the roster as it is right now, and this way kind of can reflect on exactly what else we may need to do in this draft and the remaining days of free agency as we head into it. Adam, I know you're out there carving some awesome stuff, getting ready for our live stream out of the Clearwater Casino. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Just working away. We're going to have some cool stuff for you guys to see when we get to the Clearwater Casino for draft day. That's cool. And like you said, Clinton, great time of year to go through the roster as it is right now and kind of see where it stands. I saw Bill Simmons do his over-unders for the season in terms of win totals for each and every team. And the Seahawks at 7.5, Phil. After we're done talking today about the defense, which is the exciting part, like this one's going to be more fun than talking about the offense for me. 7.5. Is that fair? Unfair? What are you thinking? Wait, I know you're not a betting man, but you got $100. You got a Benji. You throwing it on the over? You throwing it on the under?
Well, if we pretend like our defense doesn't exist and just look at what we did for offense, 7.5 would be hard to get to. I think if it was all on the offense with an absolutely mediocre, or definitely if it was the same level defense. I was looking back through how we've done our ratings the last few years. This was the lowest we've rated our offense as a group in quite some time. There's no doubt about it. I'm expecting, though, as we transition to defense today, this could be the highest we've rated our defense in quite some time. Clinton?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for that too. And of course, if you're here, we'd love you to subscribe. You see it on screen here at youtube.com/Seahawkers podcast. A like is we're so grateful for that. A subscribe, we're very grateful for that. And again, this is the type of show where the comments are booming lately. We're going to give our ratings, but we want to hear your ratings. So drop the comments there as well. Share it with a couple of 12s, maybe 12 12s. That'd be the best, I think. And of course, if you want to support the show, getintheflock.com. Look, there's perks. You get to hang out with the community of flockers, which is amazing. And you get to raise the hawker. So go to getintheflock.com. If you're getting that extra value, please go do that for sure. And we, like I said, Mr. Phil and Adam, this is part 2, defense. Part 1 was gangbusters. Out on YouTube, you can find it right there, or in all audio streams. Guys, I even circled it for people. Do you think, Phil, do you think folks can find that in that hot pink circle?
I can find it, and I'm not good at finding things. I usually get my 12-year-old girl to help me find things. So great job on making the clue easy for someone such as myself.
Yeah, very bright, highlighter breadcrumbs for Hansel and Gretel to find part 1. We think it's valuable. We think it's really cool. We want you to go do it. Out on YouTube, we always like to put out these polls. I love the YouTube poll creator. I think it's really cool. So previously to this episode, knowing we were going to do this, almost as if it was orchestrated, Adam, I asked, what is the top, defensive unit in your perspective for the 12s out there? 500 something people later, and almost 2/3 of that 500 plus are saying it's got to be the D line. Of course, we're going to get to our ratings, but do you think that the flock is onto something here? Is there wisdom in this flock of seagulls?
Well, it's not a bad bet to pick the interior D-line. I think there's a little bit of work to do yet with the draft and stuff coming up. So if we're looking at it as is today, I actually would pick edge. I think that, with the depth pieces and D. Lawrence coming in and Mafe and Hall and everybody combined, I think that might be a more solid group overall today. But after the draft, a couple additions, then it might be just obvious interior D-line all the way at that point.
Yeah, well, the flock likes it to about 2/3, 63% are there. And we're going to go through all of our ratings. So stick around to the very end so you see all those. Boy, did I love this one. So we got Leo Williams sitting there. This is the pre-draft roster eval defense. We're going to get into that. But one more quick announcement. Besides the fact that I got a brand new microphone, thank you, Brandon. It sounds great. I love it. We also got a brand new sponsor, boys and girls. So I've got to introduce Body Spec to the flock and tell you about this great offer. So let's hit that real quick. Little video to show you what's going on. If you're ready to kickstart your fitness journey, whether you're an athlete or a fitness enthusiast, just getting back in shape, whatever it might be, Body Spec has you covered. For less than the price of a haircut, You can access DEXA scans, the world's most accurate body composition scan. You want to truly know what's going on with the body of yours right now, you're going to get a $10 discount by using the code SHP at checkout. You can see on screen right here that this is focused on the numbers that actually matter to you: your body composition, bone density, overall health metrics you're not going to get from a scale. And at this price, look, it's a great gift, well under $100 to gift yourself or gift to a loved one. And I think one of the coolest things that's happening too is that they got locations all across like the West, and this is why they were kind of attracted here. They knew we had a big Seattle audience, but go to their site. There's great locations in Texas, a lot of locations out West in Seattle and California, and they have a mobile experience. I don't mean mobile app. I mean, the van will come out to you. The van comes out to you, which is really cool. And you could schedule that and go get your scan. So hit that up. You saw the QR code on screen there, or just go to bodyspec.com/C-Hawkers and use the code SHP for that $10 flocker discount. And away we go, gentlemen. So welcome to our new sponsor, Body Spec. We are fired up to have you on board. Mr. Phil, we are back to our scoreboard here. Could you please give us a quick recap and then take the baton as we look at this, I would just say, this swelling Seahawks defense heading into the 2025 season?
Thank you for putting this on the screen there for us, Clinton. Get a look back at what we did last week, looking at our offensive position groups. I want to let everybody know as you're looking at the screen what these numbers mean. We did a 1 to 5. 1 means it's a real bad problem. 5 means it's an absolute strength in respect to the whole league. Like we're putting ours up against most any team in that area. 4 means it's good, and 2 means it's not great, and 3 it's just okay, we're fine, not a huge issue but not awesome. So it's 1 to 5. And quarterback, we're feeling like it's just barely above okay, and I think that was Clinton pushed that up just a touch for us. Running back, we're feeling like we got a good unit, it's a strength. Wide receiver, I heard us a little bit there, where it's just below fine. Tight end is a 1.7, so it's pushing toward a problem. Not great. Tackle, we all feel really good about our tackles. We're not saying that we have one of the best in the entire league on either side, but we're saying, hey, we're good there. Interior O-line, only Adam thinks it's not an absolute problem. He just thinks it's kind of bad. And that's where we've ended up at this point. We will now. Did you guys have anything to? Are you good with your ratings? You're still feeling confident where you picked at offense as you marinated on this a little bit over the past few days, Adam?
Well, I would push back on the characterization that I didn't think it was that bad. Like when I'm doing the numbers here, if it was a scale 1 to 10, there's more room for nuance, right?
Okay.
But a scale of 1 to 5 makes it a lot harder. So
sorry,
I don't think with Olu I couldn't give it a 1. So because I think Olu is a solid starting center. Yeah. Now, are the other 2 guard positions absolute dumpster fires at this point, based on what we saw last year? Yes. So if I'm looking at it between a 1 and a 2, it's probably like a 1.7. And so then I round up to 2 because for Olu, and giving just a little room for the idea that one of LeMaya, Haynes, Bradford, some people even say Sundell, can develop into a quality starting guard. So to characterize it as, well, not that much. I mean, it's a problem, but not that much of a problem. That wouldn't align with everything that I've said for, I don't know, 10 years now.
Yes, I'm trying to make you, really take a stand on how you're feeling about it. That's the 1 through 5 is kind of putting us at that point to where you're saying it's bad or it's a big problem is the difference between a 1 and a 2. Clinton, you still feel good about all your scores, or did you want to say, hey, wait a second, I got a little over positive, Mr. Positive Teacher with my grading?
He's
or
a harsh
feeling pretty
grader.
good about it?
He's a harsh grader.
Oh, that's right. You were the harsh grader. You're the harsh grader amongst us. Yes.
Yeah.
In my own head. No, I'm good with my grades. I think what's interesting is that, and I thought it was cool that when we put this out to the flockers and people were commenting in our Discord for our members there, or they were dropping comments on YouTube, a lot of people will go with the subgrades. And that was kind of cool. You know,
Mhm.
we're not using subgrades. I think it makes it easier if you can say, oh, it's really a 3.5 or it's a 4, something's really kind of on the cusp of elite, 4.5. But I also like the edge of it when the subgrades don't exist, because it makes you make a
Yeah.
bit of a tougher decision. So
Yeah.
look, if you want to drop your comments and you want to use subgrades,
No doubt.
I'm not here to tell you how to grade. Drop a comment. But I like it. I like that people were doing it. So with that, man, like we got Leo on camera there, and there's a reason he's the
Yes.
lead, because we're going right to defensive tackle, a different Leo picture, another one, man. By the way, quick side quill. How in the world, if you look back, how was he not an all-pro or a
Oh, come
pro
on.
bowler last year? Like, how is that possible? He dominated. Adam, just want to throw that out there because it still boggles me that I know it's Seattle, you know, I know it's South Canada after all, but come on, do people have eyes? Do people watch football and watch this guy just dominate for freaking 17 weeks?
This is why, number one, the Pro Bowl I've stopped paying attention to at least 2-3 years ago. It's a joke, and
Yeah.
I don't care, and I don't think that it's even an honor anymore because of how ridiculous the Pro Bowl selections are and the way they're done. And I think we're entering that with all pro selections. We're getting closer to that because the idea that Leo Williams was not considered the tippy top of the best at his position is unbelievably absurd. Dude's an absolute monster. I don't care if he's playing in Southeast Alaska or Northern Mongolia. Doesn't matter. He should be getting that sort of love. And I'm glad that you called that out here, Clinton, because Phil, I imagine you feel the same way about Leo and maybe this group in general.
Yes, last year at the end of the year, I didn't think there'd be any controversy as to whether Leo Williams was all pro defensive tackle. I thought the
Nuts.
only controversy would be whether he was defensive player of the year. That's the only thing that I wondered. How much of the conversation or how many votes will he get for defensive player of the year? I never had a doubt he was going to be starting all pro. Crazy. People literally do not watch our team, but we are going to do our ratings. Adam, you're going to get to go first on defensive tackle. I'm curious as we go into defense. Olu was undoubtedly the most controversial offensive player when it came to ratings last week. When it comes to defense, I wonder if anybody's going to come up. I got an idea who it might be as we get to a later group. I don't think it'll be with this particular group. But Adam, where are you rating this? I'm guessing it's in the upper area. But let's hear your thoughts on defensive tackle. We have Leo Williams, Byron Murphy, Jaron Reed, Cam Young, and Mike Morris right now. Let's hear your thoughts.
You bet. So I'm going to go with a 4 to start with, only because we're not doing the subgrades. Like we said, there is room for improvement, and we'll get to that in a second. But when you talk about a potential defensive player of the year in Leo Williams, you talk about Byron Murphy and the pedigree that he has. I know a lot of people say that last year was a little disappointing. They were expecting a little more Jalen Carter, maybe, or I don't know exactly what the expectations was. But if you go back and look at what he was accomplishing in play in, play out as a rookie, and as a guy that needed to build strength a little bit. That was the one part about his game where you're like, he's a smidgen undersized. I look for him to come out this next year with the talent that he has and just be an absolute game wrecker. Bringing back Jared Reed, massive, not just in size, but in leadership, in putting him in combination with Murphy and Williams on the front end is just a huge deal, I think. Cam Young hasn't seen the field. He's kind of that run stuffing defensive tackle, the plugger, takes up 2 blockers and that sort of thing. Hasn't really seen the field. So not a lot to get excited about there. A late round pick. So it's not like we were expecting him to flash either. And I'm kind of a Mike Morris homer. I just like the body type. I like what I think he could bring with his athleticism on the interior. He feels like he could be Michael Benedy someday. And that's what I'm looking forward to. So a little bullish there, but ultimately they need that big Hankins type to come in and be the plugger in the middle to free up Murphy, Williams, and Reed to really be able to pin their ears back and do what they do. And that's the only reason it's not a 5. But at the end of the day, those guys are out there. You can find them even late in free agency or in the draft. So I think it's something that's still solvable. Not that it's the biggest problem, but it's going to be something they need to address.
Go ahead, Clinton. How would you like to rate these?
Oh, thank you, Phil. So the rating is a clear 4, maybe the clearest of all. It's like, okay, this is a absolute 4. The top of the chain here is really strong. The top 3 on the board here, really solid players across the board. And Adam, you said that maybe Byron was a little like undersized or under, but he may be. He's not really undersized. Like he's short, right? He's a stouty guy. He's not exactly tall, but he's really strong. He's already super strong and he holds down 2 people. He was doing nose tackly things last year. And to your point, if they could find a true nose tackle, the Al Woods of the world with thigh arms that could free up Murphy to get on the field in more third down situations and do some more pass rush stuff, I think it only is to the betterment of the whole team. And then Murphy's stats and how people feel about him as the 16th overall pick last year. So I think that all kind of can and will matriculate. Cam Young's been a kind of a ghost. We don't know what we have there, and he might not be long for this roster. Calling out too, there's 2 other dudes, Quentin Bohanna and Brandon Peely, who are currently on the roster, but I just didn't have enough room on the slides to put them on here. And they're kind of, I think, kind of fillers at this point. I don't see huge upside for them. With all that, Phil, this is a clear and present for a super strong group. We're going to be doing in the coming weeks, we're going to be doing like a draft crush episode also, with the concept of if you have a draft crush, but they're taken away, like you get crushed by your draft crush, who can replace them so you feel good. And there's lots of folks who want Kenneth Grant, the defensive tackle from Michigan, 340 pounds, huge body, can do all the things. It's going to go pretty early.
Yeah.
But rest assured, like Adam was saying, there's dudes in the 2nd and 3rd round, maybe even 4th round, who are huge body guys, can really bring this 4 and maybe bridge it towards a 5, man.
Okay, so I'm going to grade it a way I haven't graded any position group yet, and here's why. I'm going to give it a 5. I'm going to give it a 5, and here's why. Like you guys said, we don't have 4.5. I would say it's a 4.55, which means I'm going to have to lean into a 5. I think for our overall score, this needs to be above. A couple of reasons. You're right, we don't have the big nose tackle yet. However, unlike when it comes to interior O-line, John Schneider has always proved he gets that guy every year. He's going to find him. He's out there. If he doesn't draft him, because I don't know if I want to put that on a rookie necessarily, maybe there's a rookie that could finally do it. I'm just fine with the $3-4 million guy that gets in there and does the nose tackle stuff. Here's the other reason. I think Leo Williams is the best in the game at this position. So the best in the game already makes this is our chance at having a strength. And I know it's a little hope casty, but I've got a lot of confidence in Byron Murphy taking that step, going from already doing good last year to really being a difference maker this year. And if we have a difference maker in Byron Murphy, a difference maker in Jaron Reed, he'll do whatever you need on what the down calls for. Not only is he a dynamic, emotional leader, getting everybody going, he also handles pass plays well. He handles run plays well. He does what is needed on the field. He's perfect for your number 3 defensive tackle. I think it's an absolute strength, and I think we're going to get the other guy. I believe this can be a full-on 5, but I've got confidence it's better than a 4. I hope I'm not Captain Positive. You guys can slam me in the comments if you think so. I just really believe in this group. I've got full confidence it's going to be a force this year. Any other thoughts before we move on to the next? You guys good with that?
No, it's great. I think we should carry on, but I love the fact that we got a 5 in there, and you made a great argument for it, is what I would say for sure.
Okay, we go to edge. Thank you for switching the slide there, Mr. Clinton. We go now to edge. This is including your outside linebackers or however Coach Mike likes to set it up. Clinton has listed here for us Derek Hall, of course. Boye Mafe, looking for that big cash anytime soon to get extended. Can't believe he's 27 already. Good grief.
Again, these
DeMarcus
are
Lawrence.
and remember too, these are age years. Like they'll be turning this
Yes.
calendar year 27.
Hard to believe. DeMarcus Lawrence, we just signed to a medium contract. He's been a huge difference maker in the past. Uchenna Nwosu, we hope he gets to play some this year. Maybe he'll give us a boost in the second half as he gets his legs under him. And Jamie Sheriff, you can say what you will about him, but we definitely have some guys at the top there to talk about. Clinton, how would you rate our edge group? What are your thoughts in this particular area?
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is this is like, to me, might be even a truer 4 than the last group, because I loved your argument about where the all pro talent was that pitches it to a 5. And this might be, I hate to say, like the most vanilla, everybody's good, B plus dudes across the
Okay,
line.
yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that kind of vanilla, by the way, right? They all do their job really, really well. You get enough pop from Mafe, you certainly get enough pop from Hall. Can one of those guys break through that 10 sack barrier? You bring in the older vet with D-Law, who's still 32 and just a consummate professional, great run stuffer, setting the edge at an elite level with some pop. This is a solid group. And then, you got guys like Sheriff who might come in and give you a little extra something. And I am lowest currently, guys, on Nuosu because of what I saw last year after, a series of injuries. I thought he came
Yeah.
back, looked markedly slower, and then takes a pay decrease. I think kind of knowing what the market would say right now about his value. I hope he just gets healthy, turns around, and has a very competitive year where he adds to it. With that, I'll pause there. A solid 4. People would argue, oh, you don't have the Trey Hendrickson. Oh, you don't have the JJ Watt. You don't have the Max Crosby. You don't have the Myles Garrett. All right. There's like 4 or 5 teams that do.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that's what
With,
gets a 5, and we don't have it. Yeah.
right. We don't have that, but that doesn't mean this is not a really solid group.
Adam.
100%. Yeah, this is a very, very solid group. So I want to clarify one thing before I give my rating here. Is the rating based on quality of personnel, or is it based on their projected production for the upcoming year? Like,
Kind of how they function all together as an edge unit, I think I would say. Like,
with
what do you feel like the edge is? Is it a strength? Is it
yeah,
dominant?
with keeping in mind some of the other position groups on the field as well and how they all intertwine.
Yes. Yeah.
Sure. But yes. And
Like
yes.
Leo and Byron are going to give them some space to get a lot of one-on-ones. Is that what you're asking?
So that's just it. Like, I think if you're looking at this edge group, just personnel wise, I agree with Clinton. You're thinking like a very solid 4. I think in terms of production, it could be a 5. And that's based on what the interior line is going to be able to do for these guys. You get an interior push from your pass rushers, and life as an edge rusher gets super fun. You're having quarterbacks for lunch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's fantastic. And I really see the Mafe having another big year this year. I know it was a little bit of a step back in numbers last year, but contract year coming up, entering the age 27 year here. That's when guys are really hitting their prime. I could see him having double-digit sacks. Does DeMarcus Lawrence get back to being close to double-digit sacks? Like, if you're bullish on him coming off just 1 year of injury, then yeah, he could really push this group up in production almost to a 5. Then Derek Hall, we saw him take a stride last year.
Yeah.
And I think he can continue that because of the style of his game. It's a little more strength based rather than being twitchy. And he just needs a little bit more technique, or a few more tricks in his bag. And he can be a real difference maker. And then you talked about Nuosu a little bit, Clinton, coming back from the injuries, did look a step slower, all that. A whole nother offseason to heal up. It's not like he's 35. I mean, he's coming into this season still under the magic 30 mark. He could very well look better this year than he did last year, especially if he's not having to play the lion's shares of the snaps with as much depth as we have here. Then you get to Jamie Sheriff and like, hey man, in the preseason and stuff, he did some things. I think that he's somebody that can go out there and give you a little bit of production as your 5th dude in line to play edge. This is a solid group. So personnel wise, I say a 4. But man, production wise, I think this could easily be a 5. You take that as you will and make your ranking from there.
So am I putting a 5 down or a 4 down for you?
Yeah,
Adam?
I don't know.
Phil, you got to make
it
the.
up to you. Do you like that game?
Phil's got to make the call.
I think for the group,
yeah.
I think for the group, you sound like a 4 to me. But you saying we could get the kind of sack totals that would be a 5. That's what I'm hearing. But I would be just below a 4. But I was also thinking of the things you were saying, Adam, with the way our interior is. They're going to be able to feast pretty good. I'm expecting a huge year for Mafe to even take another step. Cliff Averill type stuff I'd like to see happening from him, because he's pushing that kind of, not to say they do the same things, nobody's the same person, but I'm looking for him to be more of a star. We need a star, not maybe we might have a top 5 all pro star, but we need a star from that group, and Hope and Boye. I'm just going to put down a 4 just like that, and then we'll move into inside linebacker. Inside linebacker. I'll go first this time, get my thoughts out of the way, and then move over to Adam. We have Ernest Jones the fourth, Tyrese Knight, Drake Thomas, Josh Ross, and Patrick O'Connell. I kind of liked what I saw from Knight last year. He was doing some good things. I feel like Coach Mike saw it too. And I watched this with coaches that know how to read talent and know how to, they have ideas of what they can get out of them. I think that had a lot to do with some of the midseason changes where we let some folks go. I think Mike's really started believing in Tyrese Knight. You could hear bits and pieces of it from some of his interviews. So I think he's got the 3 on the way to a 4, and Ernest Jones is a definite 4. And so with that, I still, because I don't feel like we have the depth or the future coming quite yet, I'm hoping we address it in the draft. I'm going to put it at a 3, but I definitely has opportunity to be better. And I do believe these guys are going to do the things Coach Mike needs them to do. Just saying, it won't be because of how incredibly awesome they are. It's going to be because of the way Mike uses them and what he has around them. Adam, your thoughts on the linebackers?
Well, before I dive into it, Phil, I want to ask you, how many 5s at inside linebacker around the league would you say there are? Like Fred Warner.
Yeah.
Who else would you put in that group? How many 5s around the league?
I mean, Fred Warner up
Less than a
last
handful?
year. Yeah, there's 2, 3. There's just not. I mean, now that Bobby's declined, I mean, he still does his thing, but
yeah. And
you don't see them.
Yeah. Do you see a massive difference between Ernest Jones' game and Fred Warner's game?
Yes.
A massive difference.
Yes. Put Fred Warner on a tight end, put Ernest Jones on a tight end, and watch the difference very quickly in a game. As far as filling the holes on run plays, yeah, there's a lot of things that'd be similar, but when it comes to that next level, being able to defend the backs and the tight ends in the mid area, being able to play zone pass defense and making sure nothing is connected in there, Warner's at another level, and I'm trying to think of anybody else that's like him.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. So the reason why I asked is I wanted to know how you felt Ernest Jones was in relation to maybe some of the top guys at inside linebacker. And I don't see it as a massive difference, because a lot of that coverage stuff that we've been complaining about for years, covering tight ends and the middle of the field and all that, really got a lot better with the arrival of Ernest Jones. And I think he makes more plays in the pass game than maybe he's given credit for. I think that gap is a lot closer. I give Ernest Jones like a 4.5. Like he's a really, really good football player. This was a massive signing for this team. I don't think I can overstate the importance of Ernest Jones. Like this guy is a true baller in the instincts, everything. And he is really the key to making this whole thing go. And we saw the difference he made last year. Tyrese Knight, look, man, I am so fired up for Tyrese Knight because of what you said, Phil, the way that Mike talks about him, what you saw, his identify and trigger mechanism, like when he sees it and then starts to go and having the discipline to match up with it. That's what he was learning last year. And you could see growth in that. And man, he is quick to the ball and he comes with force. I think Tyrese Knight's going to be really freaking good next year. I think it's the starters are amazing. Now this group becomes a 5 because of the Kalispell kid from the Flathead Valley of Montana, Patrick O'Connell. He elevates this entire group to a 5. No, I'm kidding. But Drake Thomas is a very nice depth piece and somebody who's been around the league and we've seen flashes, and you probably need one more to get this group to a place where you feel super confident with it. But Josh Ross, I mean, depth piece, and then Patrick O'Connell, future Hall of Famer. This group is easily a 4 for me, and I think there's room to grow with Tyrese Knight's ascension. Clinton, I don't know if you
now I want to change my rating after Adam. I want to change my rating to a 4, but I've already put it in there. Clinton, how about you? Did he talk you into moving it up at all?
He did not.
Okay.
It's a passionate argument and an argument well made. I'm still a 3 here. I think Tyrese Knight had a look. If you want to use a metaphor, outkicked his coverage from what he was hammered or we were hammered upon that draft pick. This guy, all the things he can't do, and it's a big reach. All good. He had a very, very solid rookie year for what they asked him to go do. Obviously, the team changed dramatically for the better when the Ernest Jones trade happened. That was just huge. And they, got rid of a couple of players that were not long for the Seahawks. I think the depth here is actually sneaky good. And when it's a linebacker, it's like, look, if you put the dudes out there, are you going to be just absolutely demoralized if they're out on the field for a game or two or a half of a game because someone got dinged? And I've seen O'Connell enough times. I think Josh Ross is pretty okay. And I actually think Drake Thomas still has upside to give where they're fine. They're not going to embarrass you as NFL linebackers. And that's usually like enough because we have the star here with Ernest. I want to see Tyrese Knight to me is probably the biggest second year wild card on what are we going to see in year 2. I think it's got the biggest variance of, oh man, we really found something here. And we went against the grain and found a player that many had way, way further down the board and they hit it right all the way down through. He's okay. I think that's the range he could be in. Of course, I'm cheering for the high end there. So that's going to bring me to a very solid 3, but it's a good 3. I did want to say real quick too, guys, other, middle linebackers, inside linebackers that really get a lot of love. Roquan Smith, gets lots.
That was the
of,
name I was searching for. Thank you. Yeah.
He gets lots of love. And then you got the old trio. We mentioned Bobby, but you got Levante David, who keeps doing it at 35 years old for the Bucks. In many ways, I think he's kept his speed better than Bobby has, his lateral speed better than Bobby has. And then my favorite non-Seahawk of all time is New Orleans Saints Demario Davis. I freaking love that guy. I love the way he plays football. So, and then there's others, Patrick Queen,
Zach
you can make an argument. Well, he had a great year, right? So but came from a $3 million a year free agent and then goes to the Eagles and then has a phenomenal year and helps them win the Super Bowl. So but I'm a solid 3 here, guys. It could certainly pitch higher, but that's where I'm at. Adam, sounds like you got a question.
Question for you, because same question I posed to Phil. Do you see Ernest Jones as closer to that group or in that group of the best at the interior linebacker position, or do you put him a massive notch below or a smidgen, or what's that look like for you?
Not a massive notch, but he's not Fred Warner. He's not Roquan Smith in my eyes. I don't think he's there.
Easily Levante David.
Well, no, let's see. I mean, look,
Mario Davis.
Those guys are 35 and 36 years old, respectively, at this
exactly.
point.
They're all 4s, I think.
But if you go back into their heyday when they were 26, 27 years old, to me, they're both 5s. They were pitching that high.
And we haven't seen Ernest Jones at 26, 27, 28 years old yet, right?
What I love
with a defensive wizard as a head coach who specializes in linebackers.
Look, what I love about the poke in here is that you're bringing up I purposely put the ages on slide here because I think they're relevant. It's kind of neat to be like, look, Ernest Jones has played a lot of NFL football already. And he's gotten good experience in different programs, and he's been good everywhere he's gone, from the Rams to the Titans and now to the Seahawks. And he's entering his age 20. He'll be 26 this entire year. 26. He's still got 3 to 4 to 5 years of prime athleticism time as long as he can stay healthy, right? So, so to that point, can he pitch to that 5? I think he can. But again, it's a good group, man. It's look at where we were last year and having to hope on a couple of dudes that we kind of got off the scrap heap versus where we are now. It's not to say it's night and day, but it is markedly more sound. And when it comes to linebackers, that's kind of, for me, it's kind of all you need. Soundness at linebacker.
It's not night and day, it's Knight and Jones. And it definitely makes a difference. I guess the thing that, like, where it really pitches up for me is that the head coach is a linebacker master. Mm-hmm. And when you take that and combine it with somebody like Tyrese Knight, with all the athleticism in the world. On that scale of variance that you talked about, Clinton, of he could scale up to here or scale down to meh, I think it's so much more likely that he scales up to being a very good player. That it's a little like Pete Carroll with the corners, right? You bring in about anybody, a 6th-round corner, you'd be like, oh yeah, he'll make him an all-pro. That's how I feel about Mike with the linebacker. So that's why I maybe trend up a little bit. Plus the overall greatness of Patrick O'Connell is being slept on.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. And linebacker is such a scheme fit. Those and safeties. I mean, every single position on the defense has a lot to do with the scheme, but there's no doubt that Mike helps the linebackers look good. I really feel like I should have switched that to a 4 the more that we talked about it, because I've got high hopes for Tyrese Knight. I just haven't seen it quite yet, so I left it at a 3, but with hopes of a 4. Let's move to a group that might be our controversial group. And we will get to start this one off with Clinton, but we have Devin Witherspoon, still only going to be 25 this year. Tariq Woolen, 26 this year. Josh Jobe, we just re-signed for like absolute theft from his wallet at age 27. Jean-Charles Shamar at 27. And Nehemiah Pritchett, which we saw a little bit of. And hopefully we've already seen most that we'll see of him at age 24. Clinton, how do you feel about this cornerback group? This is going to be really tough, I think, to rate when you see all the potential of the season and then just some of the extreme play that we see from some of these guys. I'm excited to hear your rating, Clinton.
Yeah. So when we talk about variance, I don't think there's a more variance stuffed position than cornerback in the NFL. Like that, it's wide variance year to year, whether that's interceptions or their PFF rating one year versus the other and things of that nature. So it's an interesting one to rate. So I have to go to let's go to some logic and say, starting with, does this position have an all-pro caliber player on the field? And the answer is yes. You know, that Devin Witherspoon is all pro caliber. He's going to be the type of, we would think, perennial Pro Bowler, and absolutely can pitch to all pro as the years go on and gets the recognition, et cetera, et cetera. Look, he wasn't Sauce Gardner getting picked where he got picked. So he's not going to get the New York love on Sauce Gardner. What he's going to do is just go outperform Sauce Gardner every single year and be a much more bona fide NFL hitter as well. He's a problem out there. So he's a 5. So I got to carry this through and say, okay, to me, he's a 5. I know Seahawks fans and I have had problems with Tariq Woolen in the past with his aggressiveness and his ability to come up and be, let's say contact ready to take on the run. With that, if you look at his skill in man-to-man coverage, he's phenomenal. He gets a little woozy in zone, and you could learn that still over the years. But man-to-man coverage, there's like 1 or 2 other dudes on the planet that might be a better man-to-man coverer than Tariq Woolen. So with all that said, guys, I'm a solid 4 here. The big caveat for me is I've been duped one too many times with that. I said it on the last podcast, with that 3rd Seahawks cornerback, where I fall in love a bit and I go, oh, this person's got it. They're going to be here 5-7 years. They're the guy. I think Jobe had a very nice year. Yeah. I need to see him do it again. If he does it, it could really, really solidify this. The rest of it, look, Jean-Charles or Jean-Charles Shamar, new from the Saints. We'll see what if that's filler or anything else. Nehemiah Pritchett, I don't know. He's long for this team. I think we're going to be looking at a cornerback, maybe even fairly early in the draft coming up in a couple of weeks. So solid 4, boys.
Adam, Clinton's a 4. Where are you at on the Seahawks cornerbacks, 1 to 5?
I'm going to have to talk through it before I make my final decision here, I think, because I'm with you, Clinton. Spoon's obviously a super duper star and is just going to continue to ascend, and one of the leaders on not just the defense, but the entire team. His attitude, his style of play, everything is infectious. And I couldn't be a bigger fan of Devin Witherspoon. Like, that's when I'm as a fan, I'm looking to the front office to bring in guys, like, bring me that guy as often as you possibly can. I know it's hard to find guys wired like Devin Witherspoon. It's that they don't just walk around on the planet, willy nilly. Like, they're a rare breed, and I love having Spoon. You come to Woolen, And this is the most confusing part about this to me, because you think about the league and how many teams have two quality starting corners that can play on the outside or with Spoon even shift inside. Not many. Like,
Yeah.
so right there, that pitches it above a 3 because 3's dead average. But Clinton, I think you pointed out some of the holes in Woolen's game that need to be addressed. And man to man, he's fantastic. And that's kind of a run and react type of coverage. The guy's running past you, or you're trying to stay on top. You're reacting to his moves and trying to stay with him, and maybe even baiting the quarterback with your speed a few times, like Woolen has done. He's excellent at that. I don't think he's a great processor. And I think that's why he's had a hard time in zone coverage. I'm thinking specifically of him just letting Justin Jefferson run past him in zone in the Vikings game, and Darnold making the one big throw to beat us there. And now Sam Darnold's our quarterback because of Tariq Woolen. So I blame him. It's all his fault.
Maybe Julian Love had a little bit to do with that too.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
I just was, I wanted to give Woolen a little extra crap that he probably doesn't deserve. But the zone coverage stuff is concerning, and he has a long ways to go there. And then in the run game, I mean, he's almost a 0. And that's hard to overlook. So
this year, though, like the bad shoulder
okay.
year, yes. But last year he wasn't a 0, right?
All right. On a scale of 1 to 5, then he was a 1.
He was better. He was better, right? The year before that, it was like he didn't want to join it. He didn't want to join a fray. It's like, dude, we're not playing touch. Like you got to stick your hat in there and try and tackle, right?
Yeah, and he's not Deion Sanders, so he can't get away with it. Like he's very good, but he's not Deion. Deion made business decisions all day, every day. But Deion was Deion. He could do a lot of other things that Woolen isn't quite at that level. And that's okay. I'm not asking him to beat Deion Sanders. Like that's a high bar. So that's where it gets confusing to me, is with the Woolen piece of this. But I still think that pitches them above average. Josh Jobe is a nice depth piece, and I think he can build on what he did last year. You know, a guy that comes from, the system with the Eagles and then comes to the Seahawks. And those are good teams, good coaching. So that doesn't seem flash in a panty to me. Like, I think that that's something they can build on. They got him for a song. John Charles Shamar, I trust nobody with hyphenated first names, so we'll see. But yeah, we that's the guy I know the least amount. And Pritchett, man, he looks super raw. Super raw last year. It's tough to project him without Pete Carroll, the cornerback whisperer, to make some big crazy jump. Because of the overall depth, I'm going to go with a 3. God, I want to say 4 though. This one's the hardest one for me. I'm going to say 3 just because I've been 4s across the board. Switch it up, but you could easily convince me of 4 just because of Spoon.
Okay, I can't imagine Devin Witherspoon being in our cornerback group unless everybody else is atrocious, not getting a 4, because to me he's the household name on our. When you watch Seahawk football, and I talk to people that aren't even Seahawk fans that watch them because they know I am. I wear stuff and it's in a lot of my tags, whatever thing. And they're like, that Witherspoon, man, he is fun to watch. And he's not even been around that long. They just, when you watch us play, he's just so fun to watch. He's like, I mean, Leo up front and Spoon in the back. Those guys, something's going to happen all the time. I think he's an absolute definition of a 5. He and Leo both are, so it's hard to go. I love it that we have a 5 up front and a 5 in the back. That alone should elevate our defense. And then to me, I like Woolen's game for what he does. Put him on a receiver, have him stop that receiver. I think Mike does that some more. I was bummed on some of his business decisions. He's definitely no Richard Sherman to set the edge, but hopefully he can avoid using him that way. But he was getting better at least taking a blocker on, I thought, last year, which was good. And he was making some tackles. So I feel like he's a real solid 4 because his run game's a minus. His pass defense is good. Sometimes in zone, his mind gets a little stuck, but sometimes he makes plays on the ball in zone. So he can terrify quarterbacks a little bit. Jobe to me is like our Olu at number 2 cornerback, even though he's number 3 cornerback. So it's not as dangerous. To me, he'd be like a bottom level starter. He's not a problem. I'd rather he was the backup, but he kind of is. When you play teams that play lots of 13 personnel, which of course you would. He's basically a starter. He's going to be out there 60, 70% of the time, but he's not out every play like Tariq and Devin. So I don't think I'm going to use him to pull the Devin Witherspoon 5 all the way down to a 3 when I feel like Job is a 2.5. So I'm going to stick with a 3 if my numbers make any kind of sense with all that racket I was saying. Um, I I feel like they are. Did I say 3? I'm going to say they're a 4 because of Spoon. And then we're going to go to the final position group before we look back over everything, which is safety. And I'd like Adam to get the first crack at safety, but we have Julian Love. Seems like just a glove fit in Mike Macdonald's defense at 20. I can't. He's only 27. He feels like just a wily vet already. Kobe Bryant, 26. Boy, he impressed me a ton from what I thought he could be last year. Jarek Reed, the second, is only going to be 25. DeAnthony Bell, 29. And Ty Okada at 26. Adam, how do you feel about these safeties, 1 to 5?
Dead nuts 3.
Okay.
Just an absolute 3. I like Julian Love. I think he's a good player. I don't think he's a great player. He's a versatile player.
Yeah.
I kind of go back to the reference of, like, I once owned a Jeep Patriot. And does it drive down the highway like as fast as the other cars? Not really. Does it do it well? Yeah. Does it corner okay? Yeah. Is it a Porsche? No. Does it off-road like my lifted Cherokee? No. Can it go places that a lot of Subarus can't? Yeah. Like, it does everything like pretty good, but it doesn't do anything amazing.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about Julian Love. Kobe Bryant had a breakout year last year at safety. That surprised the hell out of me.
Yeah.
I was calling for him to be off the team as vociferously as any player that maybe I ever have been.
Same. Yeah.
And, I think he got to a level of a 3. Now, can he duplicate that? No clue. We're going to find out. But I say with the starters, they're dead 3s. Jarek Reed, I like his feistiness. I think with his speed and everything, like, he can be a contributor if need be. And DeAnthony Bell, I don't have big feelings about him one way or the other. Ty Okada, I've seen him come in and do football things. So, like, definitely a nice depth piece. But a 3 for me. I don't know about you, Clinton. I know you love you some Love. I feel like maybe this trends up for you compared to what I was thinking.
I do love Julian Love. I think he's like, he just has like the captain type thing at this point. He's the wily vet out there. Like kind of took the torch, I think, from Quandre Diggs being just the man back there. And I would put Quandre Diggs into the same kind of category of like, look, these guys are not Earl Thomas in the sense of the way they fly around and do those kind of things, but they're really good footballers who know what they're doing, who are extremely versatile, extremely dependable. They get their share of picks. They get their share of big plays. Adam, you were sitting right next to me when we saw Julian Love block that field goal late in the game at New England, week 2, which allowed us to get into overtime, allowed us to win the game. And then you and I happened to meet Julian Love's dad, in the concourse, and took a nice photo with him. And he was super proud of his boy, which is super cool. So I really do like Love. Kobe, you said it well. Nothing else to add there. Can he repeat that? I think he can. I think he found the groove. And that was interesting. His path was really interesting because coming out of Cincinnati College, the Bearcats, where he was opposite Sauce Gardner, he was getting peppered all day long as an outside corner because nobody would throw Sauce Gardner's way. He did great. He gets to Seattle and they go, "We're going to make you a slot guy." It's like, wait, he's not twitchy. He could use the boundary as his friend like he did with the Bearcats. I didn't understand that. So for a guy who's bounced around the room as much as he has had, to find his kind of position and then really start to excel at it, kind of good for you. Maybe this is the Macdonald safety whisperer, right? Geno Stone went out and had all those interceptions two years ago, and they got a huge contract to go, I think, to Cincinnati, actually. The Bengals, of course. So where this falls short of a 4 for me, so it's a 3, is there's not enough depth here. So last year, Rayshon Jenkins played about 30% of the snaps as our third safety. When he was healthy, he missed a little bit of time. But the third safety for Seattle is on the field a lot. Macdonald likes that format and does all the simulated pressures, et cetera, et cetera. I think Jarek Reed can do it, but I don't know that. I'm hopeful DeAnthony Bell might be able to do that. I don't know that. I like what I've seen from Ty Okada, but between those three guys, I don't know one of them can do the do. Like we looked at the defensive tackles, like, okay, Jaron Reed is our three. Are you kidding? Like, come on. That is, we're kind of distant from that feel. Solid three because of that. Let's see if one of those three dudes, or I do suspect this will be an area earlier in the draft that we do target a safety. There's some great ones out there. I'm in love with one. That's not the obvious one, but we're going to hold that to our draft crush show. So,
Sure.
Phil, a nice three.
Yes, 3 is easy for this one for me. Safety, I love to talk about Love. I think he brings a different kind of leader vibe that I really like. I like the Leo enthusiasm. He's a little bit older, but he just got that ferocity type. I
Yeah.
love just all the crazy passion and energy that we get from Spoon, of course. And then at the very back, you have Love. And to me, he's even different than Quandre, and that he's got this calm ferocity to him, kind of like the burning eyes with a little bit of everybody better be in the right spot. And then, of course, he kind of messed up that one play against the Darnold. But overall, I like the vibe he brings. He makes me feel calmer seeing how Love handles things back there. But yeah, he doesn't have the greatness in all of his physical quality, but I say he's got a greatness in his mind and his mentality.
Yeah.
And so I'll give him a greatness score there. Kobe has made it to a 3 somehow, and I really believe so because of his playmaking possibilities. We don't have enough depth. To me, this might, if anything, is potentially a lower 3 or under 3. It might be safety just because of the lack of dynamism and no great athletes. We just have no great athletes at safety. So if you don't mind, Clinton, I'd like to allow us in a moment to pop up that screen and look at all of our scores. There's a couple things that stood out when we look at the score. So when these scores come up, I'd like first impressions as you see all the positions together. I've got one, but Clinton, when you bring this up, just when it pops there with our averages, what's one of the first things that you see?
Oh, Adam, take that away because I'm kicking
Yeah,
on the I'm
tap.
getting the tallies up on screen. So please take it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I imagine when we looked through this, it seemed like most position groups were a 4. I don't think we had any that was a 5, and we had nothing below a 3, and maybe just one or two position
Yeah,
groups that
you're
averaged
right.
out closer to a 3. And when you think about that, that is just personnel wise a well above average group as a whole when you look at
Hmm.
all 11 personnel out on the field. And then you take defensive guru and genius Mike Macdonald and you add that to the mix, and that's the special sauce. You give him talented guys like he has now with his scheme and his mind. And if this is below a top 10 defense for the course of the year, it's not, I'm not saying they won't have stretches maybe where they struggle here and there as they're working through some stuff, but I think they could easily be a top 10 defense. And if they're not, I'm probably going to be a little disappointed because I think this is by far like the side of the ball that we're all most fired up for. And I love me some smash mouth defensive football. And I can't wait. I can't wait to see this group together, especially after the draft, because I do think they're going to add a little bit to it. And I don't know if you feel the same way, Phil, but are you trending top 5 defense?
Well, if they're not top 10, I'm going to be, not only will I be disappointed, I'll be shocked because I really believe in our coach. Everything I've seen with his last team and then what I saw happen last year. Plus, this is the side where, like I've been saying over and over in the show, we have absolute dynamic players. We have players that can make a huge difference. We also have players that I expect to are positioned to even grow more versus on offense. I mean, I'm not so sure, but the chart, when I just look at the chart, what stands out, there's nothing below a 3. You go to offense, we have unfortunately some well below 3s and some below 3s, that's some not even okay going into the draft. Now this is a snapshot going into the draft, but right here, if we add to defense, we are adding to strength and depth and more potential. We add to offense, it's because we've got to have it just to get to acceptable level. So yes, I think we could be a top 5. I would not be surprised if we'd be a top 5. I'd be more surprised if we were a 16, 17 defense than if we were top 5. How about you, Clinton?
Yeah, I'm with you. If we are pitching towards the middle with this lineup that we're trotting out there, I mean, in the middle of the defenses, 50%, just bang average, this is going to be a long year for Seattle. And again, the offense could get markedly better. This is a snapshot in very early April. We're recording this April 1st of 25, right? The offense could get a lot better. And with Kubiak and with Benton, certainly we got star power there too. But what I love looking at this, it's kind of the little stats don't lie, is also where's the concentration of the top dudes. We talk about Spoon, of course, but you look at defensive tackle pitching, somewhere in the subgrade of a 4.3, and edge is like this absolute solid 4. Guys, that's the when Mike Macdonald walked into the building and goes, I want to play a certain style of football. Yes, he needs his linebackers to kind of center field all this. And when he got Ernest Jones, it was the glue, but you can't do anything without that front 4, front 5. That's where our concentration of great talent sits, and depth. That's the combination. You got star power and rotational depth. So I'm just torn with what's going to happen with the draft. It's like, look, we get to pick 18. And if you're like, look, go take Kenneth Grant, we're mentioning him for the second time, because he could be that disruptive nose tackle, 0-1 technique. And my word, what will that do to that DT room? And what will that do to the opponents? Or we got some problems to solve, right? On the offensive side of the ball. So it's going to be absolutely fascinating to watch, man. But 1 year into Macdonald's tenure, he's building what I think he wants to on this side of the ball. And if you like the kind of football that I like, that I know you guys like, it's exciting, guys.
Adam,
Absolutely.
when you think about how we're going to invest, I just like take our top 5 picks.
Okay.
Would you prefer we add to strength? Let's say you're going to put 3 on one side of the ball. Would you prefer we add to strength with the 3 out of the 5 picks? Or would you prefer we fill holes on the offense with 3 of the 5 picks?
I would prefer that they take every one of those 5 picks and they spend it on a guy who plays on one of the lines, specifically the interior. Okay. Take every single one and invest there. And the reason I say that is I've been banging the table about this for a long time. It's an old football adage as well, that the game is won and lost in the trenches. And we just watched the Eagles dominate up front with a B-plus quarterback and really good receivers, don't get me wrong, and obviously a dynamite running back. We have a dynamite running back. We have one very good receiver, and you invest in the trenches up front for that offense, a B-plus quarterback can get you a long ways, maybe even a chip, if the trenches in front of him are super, super solid and the defensive trenches are super, super solid. You can get by with the John Charles Shamars of the world playing on the back end if the defensive line is absolutely wrecking the opponent's offensive line. So I don't really care if it's defense or offense that they spend those picks on, as long as it's on the interior. And just take your medicine, learn your lessons. Just don't get dazzled by the wide receiver or the tight end or the really athletic safety. Keep it simple, stupid. Interior stuff.
Clinton, do you have thoughts on this? I got one major thought, so I'll just throw this out there. I'm mostly with your first 2 days, I'm mostly a best player available because I want to find Pro Bowlers. I want all pros. I want spoons and crosses that are just either really good or are stars. That's what I want. But John did this to himself. He did not address a giant hole. And so, yeah, give me 3 BPAs, but he's got to put 2 picks into where he's left just a chasm. He can't get around it this time. Somehow he's got to make it happen to solve the disaster he left at the middle of it, because it could suck all of this great potential and just pull it down the drain if he doesn't do something to handle this abyss he's left us at the middle of our offensive line. How about you, Clinton?
Well, we did a nice episode that was basically asking the question, postulating, was this all on purpose? You hear so many people that are like, oh, no, this all happened and there was none of it was orchestrated. And I could look at it from a different angle and be like, I'm not too sure about that. And that was that was a green cover. You can find that on our YouTube channel if you want to go down that rabbit hole. Brandon and I did that one as kind of like investigative reporters. Like, what could we unearth? And that was fun. with all that being said, I think part of it is John purposely accumulated picks in a draft that has a lot of offensive line talent staring
I
at him in
hope
the
so.
face.
I really hope you're right.
Because I think he's a smart man, and I think he manages things when he turns over the Ernest Jones contract, and you go, "Wow, that's a steal compared to the Nick Bolton contract." Right?
Yeah.
We're talking about a lot, and that happens more often than not. I think in the John Schneider tenure, which is kudos to him. I think he's a smart guy. I think he'll address it. So to answer your question, if I had my druthers, if we're overweight on offense, BPA be damned, take really good players uh, and go help out the side of the coin that I think needs it a bit more. That's where I would prefer they go do it. So if it's 3-2, if it's 4-1, meaning the first 5 picks and the first 92, I would like them to go a little bit more offensive heavy, because I perpetually believe, guys, that we're not that far off. We're not that far off. We were a yard short of beating the friggin' Rams last year. We would have won the division. Now there's a lot of change. I get it. Starting at quarterback, it's gigantic. But we're not that far off from being quite a competitive and good team. So that's my answer, man. 3 on offense, 2 on defense. I will give Adam some love and say, look, if 3 of those 5 are right in the trenches, I'm really stoked about that.
That's right, because you don't want him to pass on your beloved Tyler Warren. That's for sure. And when I threw tight end in there just to kind of rib you a little bit. But you said John Schneider is a smart man, and he is. He does a lot of amazing things. I mean, look at what's going on the defense. You mentioned the Ernest Jones contract, all of that stuff. So give him his flowers for all of those things. Now, John Schneider is also, I believe, a stubborn man. And just hearing him lament some of the heat that he's been getting from the fans and stuff, there's a part of me that is just terrified that he's like, oh yeah, you guys think you know so much more than me? Look at everything I've done. I'm going to draft a bunch of guards, you bet, but they're going to be rounds 5, 6, 7. And I addressed it, so you can't be mad. That's my number one fear. Do you, Clinton, do you, Phil, do you guys look at that and go, oh boy, I have a certain amount of fear for that sort of outcome?
I'm hoping Clinton's right, that he's planned it this way, because there's a lot of interior offensive line talent in this draft, but I don't want another guy that needs to be coached up so he can say, hey, I gave you a guy, he's got some good raw material, and now it's just up to these coaches. Mike hired these coaches, and they're either going to do it or not, but I gave them what they needed. I hope it's not that again, because I've heard that song over and over and over and over. Mm-hmm. I want something different, and I don't usually want to push my GM to stretch to take a position in a draft, but he has to this time. We need a guy that can get out there and start. Give him some lumps of clay later, but we need a guy. He can't just hope that all of these guys that he has, they're going to get coached up and make it work. He needs to get a guy that he really believes can start, and I don't care if he has to go a little bit earlier than he thinks they should be drafted. Now, like you just talked on your show with Brandon, my dream is that we drop 4 or 5 spots, get another day 2, and take a Zabel, somebody that is a guard that can start and do it in the 20s. But I won't be mad if he takes him at 18, just to calm my nerves that, okay, he finally did it. He believes in this guy. We got a guy. Are you feeling that way? Well, you already said what you're feeling, Clinton, but are there other thoughts that you needed to add to that about John Schneider being smart?
Yeah. So and
stubborn
a little bit. Yes. But look, he does have some hubris. I think he can be stubborn, and it's at the point of this relationship that he has to prove it. He has to prove it to us, because he's never, I don't think, taken a interior protector in the first round, right? I think that's accurate in the 14, 15 years now. I don't think there's ever been not an IOL or center. And I get it. That's not what you traditionally do in the NFL, and people bang the table for BPA and hey, you could get those guys in the second, get those guys in the third. I understand all that, but it has not worked out for us, right? Our reality is it has not been the way to build a strong line. So I'd like him to, it's not like, shut people up, because it's not about that. It's about the efficacy of the pick. I'm hopeful they're sitting there at 18. They're like, wow, we love 2 of these guys, or 3 of them. Let's say it's Banks and Jackson and Zabler. They're at 18. Cool. we could trade back to 23, get a third, an early, whatever that might be. And one of those three, we really like, they're graded so close. We're cool.
Yeah.
And they execute that. It'd be great. Adam, I'll be cheersing you with a beer live at the Clearwater Casino if that happens. Or Phil, like you said, if they're like, well, this guy's above this guy, and we just want to solve the problem, and we could do it right now. And yes, it comes at a sacrifice, because you might be like, we love this safety, or there's a corner we absolutely love, or there's a defensive tackle that we think would just really push us over the top.
No, I'm afraid of all those scenarios, because that's probably going to be there. It's going to be tough.
Except for the defensive tackle part. I think that's one. If he ended up selecting somebody of Grant's ilk or whoever it is, I'm not a defensive line draft guru. So you tell me, dear listener, which one of them is the dude. But
follow the story. Yeah, I know what you're saying, but follow that story. He does it because he just can't bypass this nose tackle.
Right.
And then we got to wait all the way to the 50s, and all the three that he thought were starters are gone, and now we're with a guy that's going to get in and compete with Haynes and the other bunch.
Yeah, then you got your others. You got your your Tate Ratledge, and you got your I think it's Savini is how you say his name. And then there's a plethora. There's a lot.
No, there are. I'm just wondering how we would feel about that.
Oh, no, I'd feel terrible. I'd be sitting there like, look, I want them to solve the problem, but it might not be the right. It might still be the wrong. The feeling I have might be the wrong path. And it's not like,
I'd way rather get 30-year-old Atuba, I can't say his name ever, for $4 million and plug him in there to take up space and knock down run defenders, and get a guy that can start at guard, and not a guy that needs to be coached up for 2 to 3 years. But I understand your point, Adam. It'd be great to get a young guy in the middle, but if we're going to be a one and the whole across the interior O line, it's going to wreck everything that could be possible with the rest of this good roster.
Right.
So what? Oh, good.
I look at things through 3-year windows, right? This is year 2 of the Mike Macdonald experience. Do they have to address the offensive line? Yes, they do. Now, does that mean it has to be completely fixed this year? It doesn't, except for John being on the hot seat a little bit about the whole thing. So he has to hit on one. So if let's say they take Grant to 18, and you're saying, well, a couple of the starters are off the board, then what you have to do at that point is go ahead and draft 2 to 3 dudes higher up with your draft picks, and increase your likelihood of one of the mystery boxes turning into a starter. You need to actually invest there. Now, it can't be from like the 4th round down. Like, he would have to do it with those early picks, those 2nd and 3rd round picks, and really go after it. And if he does that, then I wouldn't be mad about the DT thing. Now, if he does, let's say he takes tight end, let's say he takes corner, let's say he takes, oh, God forbid, wide receiver or cornerback at that spot, then I'm going to be upset. Like, because if you're not going to spend it in the trenches, you need it in the trenches one way or the other. And
he's gonna have to pull a trade if he doesn't get a starter in the first couple rounds. He's gonna have to pull a trade.
Who's trading good offensive linemen? Nobody. So,
but we do have the capital there, right? With 2 2s and 2 3s, you have the ability that if you really like a dude and you want to get that 5th-year protection, you have the capacity to take your guy at 18 who might not be an interior offensive lineman, and probably still get into the back of the first round if you want to, or move up early. Go get your guy. They did it with Lockett. They did it with Metcalf. They've done that, in previous years for sure. When they lock onto a dude and love them. So the flexibility is there. But I'm really with you, Adam, that if we're going to spend 18, spend in the trench. If it's not an offensive lineman, flip it, spend it in the trenches, and not on the periphery, not with these quote unquote skill places. We're going to get into the draft crushes a little bit later in a different episode, where people are going gaga over guys like Matthew Golden. They're like, oh, he's a great X. I'm like, are we sure? He's 6 foot first and foremost. So I'm not really sure he's actually an X. And
I like him.
He's good. Oh, he's
all of our top receivers from the Seahawks have been like under 6 feet. So
he's totally solid. Well, DK was pretty.
No, I know. I'm saying when we did the 50 year,
for sure.
Look at Largent, Baldwin, Lockett.
I like Golden as a player, but when we do that draft crush episode, there's just dudes there that are quite good that might even fill the role, if you're looking for an X, might even fill that role quite a bit better. So I'm excited to get into that. And I also want to bring this up, guys. So coming up pretty darn soon. In fact, this will go out Tuesday night. So we're recording this April 1st. What you could set your watch to is that Thursday night. So April 3rd, we're going to be Adam, Brandon, and myself are going to be live on Thursday night, and we're going to go through the draft prospects that are QBs.
Sweet.
And Adam, we're going to get your top 12 countdown, which I'm fired up about. Phil, did you have something you wanted to chime in with?
No, I'm excited to hear it. You're going to start from 12 and work your way to 1 again? Is that how you're doing it, Adam?
Yeah, Adam.
I think so. I guess I haven't quite settled on exactly which direction we'll go, but I think that's probably the way to go about it. And it is in some ways it's an interesting class. In other ways, you're just like, okay, let's just move on and start talking offensive line again. But there's a couple dudes outside of Cam Ward.
Can we find our Brock Purdy?
Maybe. There's a fair amount of guys that you're looking at through the lens of, could he be Brock Purdy or is this guy Bailey Zappi? And that's kind of what you're looking at there. But I think there are at least two. I'm finishing up quarterbacks tonight. At least two outside of Cam Ward that you're going to look at and go, if he's there in the second, am I really that angry that they took him? Like, am I really that angry?
I was thinking like a 6th round, 7th round guy that's like possible. I'm down with that. I didn't expect us.
Oh, there's a whole host of those dudes, Phil. If you want one of those guys, like there's 1,000 of them. You can go pick one. They can be out of the league in a year and we'll call it good. But it's going to be fun. And I think following last year's draft class, which was uber talented, with this year's draft class is a really fun exercise for me, because it really challenges you as a quarterback evaluator because of how different the classes are. And as much as I haven't enjoyed watching some of the film, I've enjoyed the process as a whole.
Excellent. Excellent, boys. All right. Well, a big shout out to our new sponsor, Body Spec. Check the description of this video. And if you're listening on audio, again, bodyspec.com/C-Hawkers. Use the code SHP for that discount. And, go do something healthy for yourself. So remember, if you're here, you're still hanging out with us. If you haven't already, liked the video. And if you don't subscribe to the channel out on YouTube or out on your audio, preference, please do. The liking and the commenting helps so much more than you possibly could imagine. It really drives new people to it. And look, I know that we're taking more daggers in the comments. There are more comments in general, and people are throwing more tomatoes at us than ever, which means we're doing something right.
People, I like tomatoes. I love tomatoes.
Me too.
Hit me in the face with a tomato.
There you
Only
go.
if they're pureed. Chunks of tomatoes, no. It's just the texture's all wrong. And that's how some of these comments come across.
Oh, it's all fun. All the comments are welcome.
They are.
Keep them nice and stuff, but whatever. If you want to be mean-spirited, go
just
right ahead.
No personal attacks. That's all.
But if you do, we're going to come back.
You can hate our takes. You can hate our takes.
Totally.
Just don't hate the taker.
There you go. Love it. Love it. That's a great say. Maybe a t-shirt there, Mr. Phil. And of course, if you do want to support the show, getintheflock.com, the best place to do it. Become a member out on Patreon, $3 and above, and that gets you into the Discord. Lots of perks. We got an amazing community. We do cool stuff like the night day one of the draft. We're heading out to the Clearwater Casino. We'll be live streaming basically all day. And then we're having a Flockers only meetup after day one of the draft. So either Adam will be sitting there cheersing our new trench player, or we'll be crying in our beers and super sad having to wait to day 2 until we actually help the trenches.
Absolutely. I hope they do go with some trenches picks, because I will tell you, salty tears does not enhance the flavor of beer, Phil, and I'm sure you agree.
I do not want salty tears unless they are from Weiner fans or Rams fans myself.
That's it, boys. No salty tears, all the delicious frothy beers. And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.